I don't know if I should say good evening or good afternoon.
It's 6 p.m. here, so I
6
guess
p.m.
yeah. Good evening, I guess. It's been dark already for a couple of hours, so
Oh, really? Wow.
yeah.
So yeah, so I had the pleasure today of talking to Dean, and Dean's musically goes by the name TIDALWAVE, and Dean is in Germany. So we're recording on a Sunday. It's 12 noon here on January 15th, and it's 6 p.m. where you are, and it's already been dark for a couple hours, like you said.
Exactly. The winters a bit they're a bit long and depressing, but they're good for making music actually.
Sure, yeah. So, how long has it been dark for? Because like around here, it gets dark. Like, well, now it's obviously lighter later, but like 5, and that's pretty depressing.
Yeah, here it's about 4:30, I want to say, but if it's a dark day, then it gets much
Okay,
darker, much earlier, basically.
so it's kind of similar. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the winter months are. It's definitely that seasonal depression definitely kicks in for sure.
Yep. Yep. Basically, here it's been, I think, I don't know, it's been sunny maybe once in the last, I'm not exaggerating, I think once in the last 2 months. So it's like one big long day that just never ends. It's just gray all the time. It's
Oh,
just really strange.
it's actually very beautiful and sunny here today, which is
Oh, nice.
rare for sure.
Mm, nice.
So, well, thanks for reaching out, man. You reached out and said you're a fan and that you're Breaking Benjamin and all that kind of stuff, and it's always cool to be able to you know talk to people in different parts of the world doing this. So, I appreciate you reaching out. Thanks for the kind words, and I'm excited to talk.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, tidal wave. Tell me a little bit about. I try to go into these things as blind as possible. I do a little bit of research, but like no one can tell me and the listeners about tidal wave better than the person who is tidal wave. So, tell me a little bit about who tidal wave is.
Oh God. I didn't prepare my pitch actually. No, it's a hard one. I think I think it's a great question in so many ways because I don't know. I guess in many ways I'm still trying to figure it out myself. I think because I have so many influences and have actually changed over the years. Like tidal wave is something that started. I mean, it started in my head when I was 14 years old. That was a long time ago, and it wasn't until I was maybe. I mean, yeah, I tried to start like writing music a bit more seriously when I was in my 20s. But it's been just constantly evolving in terms of sounds and what I'm trying to be and what I'm trying to express as an artist. And also depending on what I'm into, what music I'm into. I mean, I think it kind of started off as something very grungy because that's kind of like what I grew up with, like Nirvana, Smashing Pumpkins, all these kind of bands.
Mhm.
That was really my teenage phase. So I was trying to replicate that very much, and then I got more into stuff like yeah, more like alternative metal, so more like Breaking Benjamin and Chevelle and Deftones and all those kind of bands. So I started to kind of like shape my sound a little bit more towards that. And currently it's a bit complicated because I'm just listening to a lot of stuff and I mean it's crazy actually. If I'm talking too much, just stop me. But
No, go ahead.
but it's like I don't know. I was actually looking at what I'm listening to, and I still listen to a lot of these bands, of course. Like alternative metal is really my number one genre that I listen to. But actually, yeah, I do listen to a lot of a lot of pop. I love pop. I adore pop. So I listen to a lot of that, and probably a lot more than rock at the moment. So it's not turning into a pop project, but definitely I think I've always had like I think what I've always liked about music the most I think is just melodies and things that you can sing to. Basically, that's what's really always attracted me in music. Um, and um, and so I guess I wouldn't say I'm trying to emulate that, but I'm just drawing a lot of influences from that at the moment. In terms of like, okay, how can I combine? So now the tidal wave thing. How can I combine the energy of rock, like the heavy riffs and the heavy drums, something that you can just kind of like headbang to, combine that with kind of like the sensibility of pop, if you like, like having I'm a sucker for a short song. I do love a 2 minute 30, a 2 minute 45 song. There's just where there's no extra bits, just the meat and potatoes are there, and you just put it on, starts with a great riff, gets you going, get to the chorus as much as possible because I want to sing to the chorus, and just take me through the song, 2 minute 30, and I feel most of the time you can probably say most of the things you want to say in that kind of time anyway. So Tidal Wave is very much that, trying to combine the heaviness and the riffs of rock and hard rock with kind of like the catchier, sweeter side of pop. I guess that's what I'd like it to be.
Well, I think you definitely nailed it. I think all your songs, include everything you just mentioned, and melodies for me in music is obviously very important too. Just because, like, you could sing to it, and then you have songs like, Fight Song, which really, you can really sing to, and it kind of gets you really amped up. And but yeah, it's and all the bands you mentioned, I think we would be like really great friends if we were to hang out. You mentioned the Smashing Pumpkins, Nirvana, Chevelle. So yeah, everything you said, I think you're definitely capturing in your music, for sure.
Thanks.
As far as the name Tidal Wave, and it's all caps. What's that about?
um, okay, I think the initial story is literally, I think, when I was 14, I saw that word. I was like, that's just a cool word. It would be a really good name for a band. I don't know. I was just attracted to the word, basically. There's nothing more than that. But then, when it came to actually choosing a name for a band or artist or whatever, I think for me, it kind of represented a few things. I did really want to try to, I think at the beginning, because I was trying to be a bit more metal, I was trying to write things that were a little bit more crushing, so to speak. So I really like, I like this. I really like this idea of being kind of like hit by a tidal wave of heaviness, if you like, because that's what I really love in metal and alternative metal. Those kind of heavy riffs. I love that. Like, I mean, probably you've experienced it. You go to a concert of a really great band that you like, and it's like you're kind of like flooded with that kind of bass and drums and guitars. It's like, well, that's what I found really amazing in rock and metal. I was like, wow. So I kind of wanted a band name that represents that, and at the same time, because I like to describe my music as being fairly emotional. Tidal Wave also kind of represented that idea of a tidal wave of emotions, basically a mix of emotions, because of course I'm using music to release those emotions that I go through, and eventually I think music that always touches me, basically, is music that I find personally very emotional, that makes me feel something. If I don't feel anything, then it's just not for me, basically. So I think I wanted the name to represent all those ideas, basically.
Yeah, I think that's one of the most beautiful things about music is making the ability to make people feel. And I was just at a show last week, and the artist his name is Michael Gilbride, but he goes by the name Telco, Telco, and he has like one of his first live shows in our area, and he's more of a, I wouldn't say he's a musician, he's more of a songwriter, so to speak, but he got a band behind him, a very talented band called Modern Ties. And this show, like, I mean, when he was performing and he had like these like just the musically and the harmonies they had, like I felt like I was like completely embraced in this moment and this sound. It was like, and I got goosebumps, and I just like, it was just a really amazing feeling. And I love that about music. And I think you definitely capture that in your music as well. A lot of anthem esque songs you have, and yeah, I mean everything you're saying. You think if you ever doubted yourself, I mean, you're nailing it, I think.
Thanks, because the doubting part is. I mean, I guess every musician that you speak to on the show is going through the same thing. I mean, you're constantly wondering. I don't know if I can curse or not on the show,
Yeah,
but
for sure, it's the internet.
I mean, it's just again, music is such highs and such lows. I mean, you write a piece of music, you think this is amazing. You listen to it 20 minutes later or a day later, it's like this is complete shit. You know what I mean? Like it's just and even when you release something, it's like I don't know, it's really hard because like for example, I just released this new song 2 days ago, and I was feeling pretty good about it, but it's like, maybe like an hour before it's actually out, you think, I don't know. I think they're not gonna. I think this is shit. Nobody's gonna like it. Who's gonna listen to it? It's literally, it's crazy. So yeah, it's a hard one because you kind of there's the whole idea that you should, of course, you should do it for yourself and you should do it for the music itself. But of course, just like everybody else, you just put so much energy and soul and emotion into writing all those pieces of music. You of course you want to do well and you want people to like it
Yeah.
because you think, man, I've spent so much time writing this thing. Yeah, if it bombs, then it's kind of devastating a little bit. But
Well, I think that's like this for any creator, right? I think they have these doubts and these highs and the lows. I mean, even doing this is a purely a passion project for me. And there's times where I'm like, does anyone even give a shit that I'm doing this? Like, and then there's people who like reach out to me and like, hey, like I want to like talk to you and talk about music and all that kind of shit. And I'm like, all right, yes, this is okay, this is going somewhere. This is cool. This is fun, right? And I think that's
absolutely,
just like from a creative aspect. I mean, everyone has, their own worst enemies, their own, the biggest critic, and it's tough, man.
yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, and the thing is, eventually, I think what's really hard, I guess, it's always the comparison game, right? I mean, because of course you think, well, yeah, okay, I got this amount of streams or whatever it is, and you think, well, but that artist, he's done this, or she's done this, or she's done that, and oh, I mean, why are they listening to their music, not mine as much? Or like you could, it's a very hard, endless comparison game because especially since with social media you have access to everything. Um, you could kind of fall in the trap of thinking, well, why am I not doing as good as this person? And it's really hard to kind of like just think, okay, just focusing on yourself and think, okay, I'm just trying to
Yeah.
be better than this whole like cliche thing of just doing better than what I was doing before. But ultimately, it's really hard to not compare yourself, of course. So
Yeah, it's like, it's a wonderful thing that we have all these metrics at our fingertips. We can see how many streams, we can see how many followers, but to go to what you're saying, like it's also, if you internalize that and you analyze that and get caught up in it, it could very much so just kind of like, pull you down if you don't harness it the right way, right? I mean, I was checking out your Instagram. Like, I mean, your music and as powerful as it is, and as like I said, the anthems, and you have a song called 1992 that's performing very well, and just really great songs. I look at your Instagram page, and I'm thinking this guy should have like hundreds of thousands of followers. I'm like, where are they?
um, yeah, it's funny
And
that
I'm
you
not
should say.
talking shit. Like it's just like it's what are we like? Should we be judged by that? No, I don't think so.
It's funny you should say that. I was actually exactly thinking about this in the last couple of days, actually, because it's one of my greatest fears, and of course you never know what's around the corner. But I was thinking about this whole like almost made it thing. It's like because like um, it's the same kind of thing. You're like, oh, why don't you have more followers? Why don't you have more streams? Why don't you have, or like, what, or the thing that we get a lot very often after we perform, like, why are you guys not bigger? And it's like, hell, you tell me. What I mean? Yeah, I'd love to be bigger. Yeah, we'd love to do all these things, but it's like, I was kind of wondering, what needs to come together for that to happen. But there was an interesting story as well. I remember listening to the ex-singer of Sick Puppies, and I remember at the beginning they were kind of like, I think they moved from Australia to LA, and they were just trying to grind it out on the LA scene. And I remember he was explaining that story of people would come to their show, they would meet those A&Rs, they would approach all these labels, and they were always asking them, so can you sign us? Can you do this? Can you do this? Can we work with you? And those people were always telling them, yeah, it's not for us. And when they would ask, okay, but what do we need to do in order to make it? Most people were telling them, we don't know. And eventually, what happened? It's funny. Eventually, they had a hit. They had a hit song, and basically that's what they needed to do to just kind of like just put their foot in the door. I mean,
Yeah.
so that's the thing. I think maybe that's the answer. You need to go viral, you need to have a hit, or you need to maybe grind it out for long enough that eventually something kind of happens. Or yeah, it's a tough one. So if you do have the answer, let me
If
know.
if I if I ever if I ever find it, and I'm chasing the same thing, right? It's different what I'm doing than what you're doing, but it's a creative, something creative, and I'm a big advocate for it only takes one. Like it
I
takes
agree.
one person to hear, your song. It takes one person to maybe see this and pass it on or share it or whatever it might be. It only takes one. And I'm a big believer in that, and fingers crossed for both of us, right? But have you met the Sick Puppies? I love that band. Is the lead singer, the former lead singer, doing anything right now?
I know he was doing his own music for a while, and he hasn't really done anything in the last couple of years. I'm not too sure why, but I think he had released a solo album like
Really, I have to check that out because I,
three or
I
four
love
years ago.
the band, and when he left, I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm out. But
But they've got a new singer. They're doing pretty well, I think, from what I see. But
yeah,
yeah, it's a bit of a shame that he's not with them anymore. But
yeah, but yeah, it takes just one.
yeah, I agree. I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah, if you know that maybe you've seen that meme. I see it quite often on Instagram. It's this guy with an axe, trying to get to the diamond, and he just kind of gives up just as he's about to find a diamond in the dirt.
yep,
But it's exactly what you're saying. Maybe you just that one more song or one more episode of your
yeah,
podcast that somebody listens to. Oh, okay, this is really good. Do you want to work together? Blah blah blah. And then
yeah.
it can kind of really quickly snowball from there. But yeah, you just
One
never know when
more,
that's going to happen.
one more swing of that axe, and he would have got there.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a long game, right? And it's like such a different. I mean, I'm not sure how old you are. I mean, I think you're probably around the same age as me, maybe a little younger. From based on your likes of music and artists. Um, but it's definitely different today than it was 30, 40 years ago. It's and I think it's good and bad. And I think it's good because let's say you release new music and it's not received well, like you had alluded to before. Like, what do I do? What do I do? Well, the joy now is like just write something new and put it out.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
you know?
And people, I think that's the thing. You're so self-aware when you're making something, and you just completely forget that actually nobody cares. Literally nobody cares. So people's attention span is so short. I know that if I release a bad song, yeah, maybe I'm gonna feel like crap about it if people don't like it. But yeah, just release another one, and people will have forgotten about the previous one in an instant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this new song. You released it. You said a couple days ago. I said today's the 15th of January, so that would put us at you released it on the 13th. I'm not sure when this will air exactly, but maybe a couple of weeks from now. But you released a new song called "Runaway."
Mhm.
Um, and this is the first song in how long?
God, it's the first song I released for at least a good, I want to say 8 months, maybe.
Oh wow, okay.
I mean, it's been sitting on my hard drive for longer than that. It's been recorded for quite a while. I'm I'm a bit bad with that, but yeah, kind of didn't really do much for the last couple of years with the whole COVID thing.
Sure.
To be honest, I think some people really use the opportunity to just write and work even harder. For me, that was kind of the opposite. It was like taking a bit of a break from the whole music thing, which was good and bad. There were some good things and bad things about it. But yeah, it was kind of like approaching 2023, and I looked at the date. I'm like, oh my god, it's actually 2023, and I still got this song, and I haven't done anything with music for so long, and I'm not one of those like 1st of January resolution kind of person, not at
Right.
all. But I just kind of thought okay, you just need to get back on the saddle and just you need to go back to music now and really focus on that. So that's actually it's not a resolution, but it's one of my biggest goals for this year is actually okay, get working again,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
How many times have you did you tweak that song? I think a lot of artists, they if they record something or have it done for a long time, they kind of go back to it and they listen to it. They're like, oh, I gotta fix this, I gotta fix that. Did you kind of do that with this song?
Yeah, that happened quite a bit. But that's the thing. Yeah, it's never fully finished. And then, even now, of course, I listen to it. I'm like, ah. But I think generally the way that it works for me is like I will obsess about a song, and eventually I will kind of like I will get so sick of it myself. And I'm like,
Right.
okay, I'm done with this. You just need to get it out, otherwise I cannot move on to something else, and I
Yep.
need to move on. But yeah, I'd still change a few things about what I've done, but it is what it is now.
Hindsight's 2020, right?
Exactly.
But talk about your writing process. I mean, what does that look like? I mean, do you like conceptualize, in your head, or how does it kind of work out for you?
Ah, God. Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, I mean, these days, I think it's very much like because I'm listening to a lot of music, and generally, kind of like something will catch my attention. Like, "Oh, this is really interesting." And then the way that it works, really, it's actually then I'm thinking, okay, I really like that idea. How can I make my own version of it? Because I really like this idea. And of course, you're trying not to copy something, but you're trying to think, okay, what spin could I put on this? And every time it's kind of like, and that's what excites me about the songwriting process because uh, it's a tough one because maybe not so much inspiration needs to kick, but it's more like I need to be excited about something. I need to be like, oh, this is a nice little challenge. And and then generally I get really obsessed because I'm like, okay, how can I do this? And that's what happens very, very often. Or I'm listening to a particular riff, which I think, wow, this is really great. I'd love to be able to go on stage and perform something that has that energy that would make people move that way or sing that way or whatever. So I think ultimately, for me, it's always about the end goal, which is okay, performing this song on stage, and okay, what emotions are people going to have when they listen to it, or what reaction are they going to have? So yeah, eventually it's always very much geared towards being on stage, performing a song, and see how people react to it. Um, and so yeah, that's very much what the writing process is like.
And I just remember this now. You actually, uh, I think you listened to the Telco episode, and he and I talked about, writing music when you're happy or sad, and you thought that was interesting, and you have a slightly different take on that. And I think I'll set it up. And when I was talking to Telco,
Uh,
I was basically saying how like I don't know if I'd probably have to be in a bad headspace, or I'd probably resort to writing better or better songs when I have something sad or angry to write about, as opposed to when you're happy and things are good. So I'd love to hear your take on that.
um, yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think I mean ultimately because of the nature of rock, my songs are they can be fairly dark or you know I'm generally talking about maybe uncomfortable, not all the time, but slightly uncomfortable topics. Um, but I think for me, it's like, you kind of want to you've got this idea in your head, especially because I guess I grew up with the whole, grunge movement and Kurt Cobain and all those people. I think as much as I love Kurt and all the Seattle bands and all those artists, of course they've had the biggest influence on me. But I really got the wrong idea from them because that's the thing. Like you would look at a guy like Kurt and you're like a 12, 13-year old, and you think because he made everything look so easy and he looked like he didn't care about anything, and you thought, oh, okay, well, anybody can just pick up a guitar and write songs and because he didn't seem to care. Like nothing seemed to really matter. But it's only when you dig a little deeper and you learn who he was and what he was really like that he was pretty much obsessed with writing those great songs, and he studied those songs himself. And I mean, eventually, I think I might be completely wrong about this, but I think the guy did want to become a rock star, and maybe that kind of backfired. I don't know what's the truth about this whole thing, but I mean, who doesn't want to be, you start playing in your garage or whatever. Who doesn't want to be, on a huge stage with 1,000 people in front of them? That's, I think, everybody dreams about that. But yeah, I kind of thought for a very long time that it was easy to write songs, and what I was trying to say with the whole happy or sad is that in an ideal world, you romanticize this idea of the depressed artist who has maybe going through something really bad, and because of the nature of that, they come up with those incredible songs because they kind of channel their pain and their emotion into the music. And for sure that works for some artists. Doesn't work for me. That's the problem. It really, really doesn't. So I'm not going to say that it's not that I need to be happy to be necessarily creative, but if I'm depressed, if I'm doing badly mentally, actually the last thing I want to do is music. I cannot come close to it. So I'm the complete opposite of this kind of artist, basically, because music is still something that, even though it brings me a lot of joy, I find the songwriting process pretty hard, and if you're writing some good stuff, I guess because maybe I associate music a little bit with my self-worth, I guess. You're writing, you're doing well, you're writing some good music, makes you feel good about yourself. But if I'm feeling crap and I try to write, and then what I'm writing is crap, then I feel even worse. And so it just really doesn't work for me. I need to be kind of like mentally stable, mentally healthy, thinking, okay, let's work. And because a lot of songwriting for me is personally very much grind. There is inspiration, there is excitement and all that kind of stuff, but there is grind, because I'm like, some songs, they do come in 5 minutes. That happens sometimes. Most of them, they don't. And so you really have to listen again and go, how do I change these things? And trying to find the solution is really, it's exciting, but it's also like kind of nerve-wracking a little bit. And because I don't write with other people, I do everything by myself as well. You cannot just say, okay, well, I don't know what to do with this thing. Just help me out, or just sort it out for me. Just write the next part. I cannot do that.
Right.
So so I feel like, yeah, I need to be in a good headspace, ready to work. Yeah. So writing when I'm sad or not doing well is personally for me tricky. I need to, not necessarily on a happy, because I don't write happy music, but I need to be doing good, basically.
That makes sense. I didn't really think about it like that. So yeah, you're right. You definitely have a different perspective on it. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That's how it works for me, at least.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess if you were sad and you were like, it's like it wouldn't be a good I mean, I guess both sides could be true, right? But each person, it works differently for each individual, for sure. So
Yeah, I mean, but if I am sad and I'm writing music, yeah, it will end up being sad music, which
right.
I like to listen to, of course. I think I'm just not very good at writing sad music. That's the thing.
Right.
There's lots of great artists that write amazing sad tunes, which I love, but I'm not very good at it.
So what did you write about?
In terms of what I have to say, in terms of
Yeah,
the
content.
lyrics.
Yeah, like I don't want you to like go through and say, oh, this song is about this or this song is about that, just
Mm.
because I know I mean, I like to hear those things, but I know as an artist, people like to kind of leave it open for interpretation. But as far as things you're right about, I mean, Are they, is it relationships? Is it, life? Is it what are your songs about?
I find most of the time, yeah, it very much often has to do with relationships. Not all the time, but often it has to do with that. And also, I think, especially in the last few years, it does have a lot to do with kind of uh, ultimately, kind of like overcoming challenges, um, personal growth. uh, yeah, it's very much about. I don't want to say mental health in general, but just generally, kind of yeah, stuff that I struggle with, that I kind of put into songs. I mean, this new song "Runaway" is actually exactly about this. It's very much about trying to overcome challenges, trying to really look at yourself, trying to ask yourself certain questions, and trying not to give up. That's a big message I have in a lot of my songs. When it is literally often easier to run away. That's pretty much the message behind the song, to be honest. I mean, the song is. I was looking at the lyrics again. So I wrote them a really long time ago, and I didn't look at them for quite a long time. But it's that's one thing that I've noticed in a lot of my songs. It's actually I am literally talking to myself and asking myself questions without necessarily having the answer, or having the answer but not necessarily being able to put it into practice myself.
Right.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of unresolved unresolved stuff and unanswered questions in my songs actually very often. I mean, there isn't much difference in terms of lyrical content between 1992, for example, and this new song "Runaway." It's asking a lot of similar questions actually. So that's yeah, I've noticed that this is what I kind of like naturally like to write about. And if it's not that, then yeah, it's often about relationships. And every once in a while there'll be a song that's a little bit different, like a fight song, which doesn't have so many words, if I'm being honest. But that was more like, yeah, just write something fun and anthemic, and that's I kind of like that because yeah, it's I'm not a huge lyric writer, if I'm being honest. Like, music is hard, but lyrics is even harder for me.
Sure.
So it's nice sometimes to just write a quick song which doesn't have a lot of things to say, and yeah, you just sing to it, and that's about it.
That's the best, man. Like, I can't imagine like being on stage and like seeing and hearing people like sing your songs back to you. So, with that being said, talk a little bit about what some of your live shows look like. I mean, that's got to be a pretty wild experience. I've never had that. I've been on some stages in front of audiences, whether it was introducing a band or whatever it may be. But I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to, be on that stage, that adrenaline and the crowd in front of you, and like I said, singing the songs back to you, and that's got to be wild.
Yeah, I mean that's I mean, I think ultimately if I could get rid of every other part of being a musician and just keep that part, that's what I would like to keep. Like just being on stage. I mean, it's a very strange one because it's the most nerve-wracking thing in the world. Um, but at the same time, the adrenaline is incredible. And I think ultimately that's the thing. I mean, I feel like I write, at least the music that I want to write needs to be on stage, and it needs to be in front of a lot of people, because the thing that I love to do the most is interact with the crowd, and get the crowd to either mostly sing. I love that. Getting the crowd to sing, getting the crowd to jump or whatever it is. It's a really hard one because we have to provide so much energy, because often, well, I mean, we're a small band, so often people don't know who we are. But there's nothing that I love more than when we open for a bigger artist, and you're in front of I don't know, 1,000, 2,000 people, and it's like, all right, I don't want to say it's us versus the crowd, but in some kind of ways it's like, all right, like we walk on stage and most people are like, well, who are those guys? And you've got something to prove, right? You've got to get on stage and say, okay, well, we're here for a reason. So right, here's the music, and I'm gonna get you as involved as possible. And I think for me, that's the thing. I think personally, I'm the kind of person that likes that as a member of the audience. I like the artist to involve me in the show. Um, and I've never I've never really I have. I mean, like some artists that their songs are so good they don't really need to speak or say anything, and that's totally fine. But we're talking about the really big ones. Um, but if that's not the case, if you don't have the biggest song in the world, it's like the question is always, well, how are people going to remember who we are? Because you only get one shot,
Right.
So, and after those 30, 40 minutes, I want people to remember. It's like, wow, this is the band that made us do this. This is the band where this and this and this happened. You have to find a way for people to remember who you are. And I always thought that, if people have a good time, they will ultimately remember who you are, and maybe they will come after the show at the merch stand to speak to you and all these kind of things. And of course they see that we're super approachable guys, and that's always eventually that's what you're looking for. You're looking for the contact with people. You want to speak to them, and you want to make sure that they come to see you again in the future,
Yeah,
of course.
of course.
So yeah, that's very much what a tidal wave show is generally. That's what we try. That's what we try to do, and yeah, I think we look very. I don't want to say relaxed because we're kind of jumping everywhere, but it's one thing that I always found so interesting about being on stage is that literally a few minutes before I'm in a state of panic really. Then you step on stage and there's no going back. So, but from the moment we played that very first note, something I always found so interesting, and I think maybe with more experience and more and longer set times, maybe it changes. But it's gone in an instant. You start the first song and then you end the last song and you have no idea where the time went. And those 30, 40 minutes are just gone. And yeah, next thing you know, you're just packing up your gear and yeah, it's very, very strange.
Talk about those bigger artists. On your Spotify, it says that you have toured with artists like 3 Days Grace, Skillet, Tremonti, and Hoobastank.
Yeah, yeah. Never thought I'd be able to say that, but
Yeah, I mean that's like, I mean let's I mean, geez, like those aren't small bands by any means. Like what was that like?
yeah, yeah, just weird. Just weird because I think especially the way that it happened, because that was kind of snowballed a little bit back in 2018, I think. But the interesting thing is like 2017, I was with my old band. I was still TIDALWAVE, but with different guys, and it just wasn't working at all between within the band. And I remember the last show that I played with those guys was, I don't know, in front of 10, 15 people. And it was a terrible show. And after that, I was so emotionally drained from everything that I was like, I'm done. Like I'm gonna continue making music, but I think I'm done for a little while with the whole band thing. I want to take a break. And next thing I know, there was literally 1 year between that show in front of, yeah, I want to say 10, 15 people maybe in 2017. And the next show 1 year later in 2018 was opening for Skillet in front of 3,000 people. And it was just weird. Literally, like I hadn't been on stage in between. And yeah, it was literally, all right, just there you go, step on stage and just play to all these people, which was wild. But it was great. It was really great. But I think at the time, the problem is like, there was no time to realize what was happening. It's like, oh, okay, well, here we go. We just play. But that was great. That was really great because, of course, those kind of like opening slots. I mean, they're amazing, right? you play in front of a lot of people, so you can literally do all these things that I like to do, you know, getting the crowd to sing and interact with the crowd, and you get so much energy back. It's an amazing feeling, and I remember the greatest thing was that literally the stage that we opened for Skillet on, I think same thing, a year prior, I was watching the same venue. I was watching Breaking Benjamin in that venue. And I thought, man, love to be on that. Just put me, seriously, I said to myself this, put me on the stage in front of this amount of people and I'll do something good. And a year later, it happened. And that was amazing. Yeah, it was weird, but amazing.
Yeah. Now, was that like a festival type of thing, or I mean, how did it happen?
They were because you know we have all those festivals in the summer in Europe,
Mhm.
and so all the bands they come to perform at the festivals, and they will always have like a few one-off shows in between festivals basically. And we were already we had the confirmation that we were going to play and open for Tremonti. They were doing a Germany tour. And so we had the confirmation that that was going to happen. So that was already amazing. So, well, we're opening for the guy behind Arthur Bridge and Freedom.
Yeah.
Amazing. And I remember the time I saw that Skillet was playing this one show, which was literally the day before we were supposed to start the Tremonti tour. And I saw that Skillet doesn't have an opening band. They don't have a support band. And I remember I just randomly asked the promoter, say, what's going on with that show? Is nobody opening for those guys? I said, oh, well, I don't know. Let me check. And yeah, then he got back to us like, yeah, nobody's doing it. You guys want to get on? Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was totally nerve-wracking because I think we just got the news like just a few days before, and we had to scrap something up as quickly as we could to just try to make it to that stage. But it was, of course, it worked out in the end, which was amazing. It was super stressful at the time, but it was literally one of the. And I've realized with music, it's often very much like this. Probably with everything, it's you know, being at the right place at the right time,
Yeah.
and being able to say yes to a specific opportunity is huge. Is huge. So we just, yeah, literally asked the right person at the right time, and we were available on that day at that time, and it worked out. So yeah, it was amazing.
There's a saying that sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Absolutely.
And hey, you know, it's one of those things too. It's like, you know, ask. You know, what's the worst they could say? No.
Yeah, of
You
course.
know,
Always.
and
No, I've always thought that. Yeah, absolutely.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's so cool. You mentioned before, you like to be able to perform in front of audiences, kind of get a feel for, you know, maybe it's new songs or just songs you have, and kind of see like how people vibe off those. I know you kind of took a break during the pandemic, but I mean, what was that hard for you? I mean, there's a lot of musicians that I talked to that they all took advantage of the time, like, you know, whether it was time off to spend with their family, time off to write. Nobody, thankfully, was really like affected from a mental health standpoint that I've heard, anyways, of not being able to perform in front of an audience. And that's a big part of being a musician. It's, you know, performing, seeing in the audience, seeing, you know, testing songs, and just having that interaction. It's very important, I imagine. So like, you know, what was that like for you? I mean, did you just kind of take the break and said, I'm just gonna pause and then see what happens?
I think yeah, it's a really hard one because currently, I mean, we haven't been on stage for quite a while. I mean, basically concerts started again 2022 here, like around May. So it actually hasn't been that long
Right. Yeah.
since concerts started again. I know in the US was slightly different. I know that people, depending on which state and everything, people kept on
Yeah.
playing and everything. Here in Europe, there was just nothing happening. And I remember, I think the first shows, yeah, started again last year around May. Um, and now everything is completely normal. So yeah, it hasn't been that long. Um, for me, it was it's a bit of a weird one because I think ultimately I do need that that release. You know, being on stage, and I mean, it's such a release to be able to just, you know, sing loud, play in front of people. Like it's, you know, I mean, I do a lot of sports, and you get released through sports and all that kind of stuff, but it's not quite the same. I mean, it's on a physical and emotional level. Being on stage just takes a lot out of you, and what, you know, we nowhere near those big bands that do this every night and are pretty much always on tour the whole year. I cannot quite imagine how they do it, to be honest. They must be pretty used to it because it's actually exhausting. It's
Sure.
literally, yeah, it's incredible. Like you sweat so much, but also like emotionally, it's completely draining.
Yeah.
Um, but so I did miss that, and I still miss it very, very much. So, but at the same time, there was a part of me that was happy to have a break, if I'm being honest, because I was very much, uh, you know, I was very much burnt out also, because I think, and probably, I mean, you speak to a lot of musicians and artists, and I mean, you're trying to do so much, and you know, even with all the hours in the day, you cannot, you know, do everything that you're supposed to do as an independent artist. You know, like if you don't have a team and people that do stuff for you, it's just yeah, I was personally struggling quite a bit with the whole, you know, writing the music, arranging the music, promoting the music, trying to find shows. I mean, it's just like, you know,
A lot.
for one, it's a lot. For what, and for one person it's too much. It was too much. And it's always like, you know, you do something and it's always, you know, literally, okay, what's next? And because it, you know, it's horrible because I do that with some of my musician friends as well. You know, they release a song, and it doesn't matter if the song is good or bad. You kind of like, all right, what's next? You know, what do you do next? What's next for you guys? You know, and people ask me the same thing. I've just released a song. Okay, what's next? You know, like, because yeah, so new song, new album, tour, concerts, whatever it is. Just give me a fucking moment to breathe. You know, just release this thing. Like,
Yeah.
but like I said, it's a bad habit. I do the same thing. Um, and I remember at the time I had just released a song which did pretty well. And I remember I was really pushing myself with the whole like getting the shows, promoting the song. It was just completely draining. So in, like I said, in many ways, it's like, you know, like I didn't have that pressure anymore, which is pressure that I only create myself anyway. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like at the end of the day, I can just say, look, I don't want to do this, and it's done. But in your head, you're like, okay, well, I need to move forward, right? And also then I, like, you don't have to have an excuse for not doing anything. So that was the part of COVID that was nice. Basically, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna stop with this a little bit.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did that. You know, they just, you know, you're constantly hustling, whether if you have a full-time day job and the music is secondary,
Hmm.
you know, I say secondary loosely because oftentimes, I mean, you know, the day job is just something that pays the bills where the music is the passion. That's what they're obsessed over. So it's like they do the work during the day, then they obsess over the music at night, and they're constantly playing shows, and every weekend they're, you know, traveling, doing this, doing that. And it's, yeah, it's a lot of hours, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of you know, mental uh just not abuse, it's a lot, right? So a lot of
Yeah,
people just kind of took a break and they spent time with family, and they, you know, maybe they started a new hobby, or, you know, something they had, you know, more time for, which has been I think good. I think it was, you know, as terrible as COVID was, right? And it's still, we're still seeing the effects of the whole thing to this day, and we will probably for the unforeseeable future. Um, it really gave people an opportunity to do some self-reflecting, and,
uh,
you know, made people realize what's important at the end of the day.
uh,
And, you know, maybe people, you know, change jobs, and, you know, I changed jobs during, well, not during, but well, kind of during, like,
uh,
I guess 8 or 9 months after it started.
uh,
Um just it was interesting. I think it was good for some people or terrible for others. It was just wild for sure.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of weird now because it's almost like okay, I don't know how it is for you, but kind of feels like it never happened somehow. It's like everything's pretty much back to normal. It's like so
Yeah, I feel like we lost a lot of time, like we were robbed of, years of our lives. Because then you also think about how, as we get older too, and I just turned 40 last November, so a couple months ago. But I just like I just realized that, I don't know how many years I have left here, right? You think you have forever, right? But you don't. And I have two kids, and it's like, am I doing enough for my family? Am I doing enough personally? Am I doing enough this, that, and other thing? It's just like, so I feel like we were robbed of the 2 or 3 years of our lives, and it's like those are precious years, right? But I don't know. And then you see
absolutely.
like reports about stuff now, and it's like stuff's coming out, and I won't get into it. I don't want to like get into all that, but just like, was it as bad as we thought it was? Should we have done X, Y, and Z? It just, if you start going back and looking at that too, you make yourself freaking nuts. But life, man.
Yeah, it was definitely weird. Like yeah, I don't necessarily want to go back to it, definitely not. But like you say, I think in terms of the whole like yeah, being able to take a bit more time to self-reflect. Yeah, that was a big one. Um, and maybe yeah, readjusting priorities and yeah, trying to think that's the interesting thing actually because I'm kind of in the middle of that a little bit right now because I'm like because I've said to myself, all right, let's just go all in again on the music this year. But I also don't want to experience some of the same things that I've done before. I don't want to lead myself to the same burnout I had before. So I have to also recognize when I'm just pushing a little bit too hard on one side. Okay, take a step back. Yeah, it's gonna be fine. It's okay if this doesn't work out, or you don't have to do this, or just try to be a bit more gentle with yourself.
Yeah,
Uh, which, as you know, probably with artists, I think people are not very good at doing
right,
that.
for sure.
Yeah.
And
So
I'll ask you the question you hate, because I asked this question typically at the end of all of my episodes. What's next?
what's
we
next?
just we just released this. You just released a song, "Runaway." All streaming platforms. But I mean, it's January 15th. We have a whole year ahead of us. I mean, do you have plans set up for this year? Like, do you like what do you have going on? Like, what's the what does 2023 look like for you?
Still struggle to call it 2023. Actually, I'm stuck on 2022.
Yeah, right.
No, I think, like I said, it was very much okay. I really released the song because I wanted to kind of kick myself in the butt, basically, to just get back and start to do stuff. But I mean, I'm sleeping already on. Actually, when I started recording Runaway, which is a bit ashamed to say that is 3 years ago. Uh, but it was part of a session where we recorded actually 4 songs. So this is only one song out of that session. So the other 3 songs they've been written for 3 years basically. They just need to be recorded. So that's it. The song's out now. I'm doing the promo, and then literally next week I'm going into the recording of those other songs. And I'm pretty excited about them. So that's going to be really cool. And I think that will kind of close a bit of a chapter for me of a certain bunch of songs that kind of sound a little bit similar, and also this whole chapter of actually me doing everything by myself. Because I just record everything except for the drums. I have a drummer, but then I just record everything myself, produce everything myself,
That's cool.
promote promote everything myself, which is cool. It was the challenge that I gave myself a few years ago to just do it all by myself. I don't regret it, but I think I'm done with it.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you can is what's cool. Like you're
Yeah,
able to do that, which is neat.
yeah, and that's kind of like what I really wanted to prove myself, basically. that I could do it, and it's great. I learned a lot. But after that, I have a lot of stuff that I've written and new things I want to continue to write. But I think I will try to do it slightly differently and maybe do a bit more co-writing or co-producing, or trying to work with more people, because that's the other thing as well. It's like when you try to do everything all by yourself, you're not gonna be great at everything.
Right.
Ultimately, yeah, maybe I'd love to be able to just say, okay, I'm just writing music and I'm just performing on stage. That would be kind of luxury for me, you know. But the reality is often not like that. But I know that in terms of like the amount of work and the stress that I put myself under, that's kind of like the way forward for me. So actually, the future is very much actually a lot of recording and a lot of writing. I'm seriously hoping that we can get back on stage this year, and even if it's just for one show, I think, because when I took that break from music at the time, when I decided, okay, I'm done with this whole thing, um, I said to myself also, the second thing was like, okay, even if I don't care if I play plenty of shows, I just want to play one show, and I just want that show to be really good, because that makes it all worthwhile, rather than, I've had my share of, 11 p.m. slots on a Sunday night in front of just the other bands. I've done that enough, like I've done it. It's like a rite of passage, right? But I'm like, okay, no, if I just have to play one show per year, but it's a good show and there's people and I'm having a good time, that will make me a lot more fulfilled, basically, than just playing show just to play a show. I don't find what do you call it? So nice anymore. But yeah.
Right. And where can people find you online?
Online, where are we? Instagram. Instagram, TIDALWAVE Music, if I'm correct. Facebook. I don't know if anybody still uses Facebook, but Facebook, it's probably just the same, TIDALWAVE Music. But yeah, I try to, if you write me, I will get back to you. I'm not super involved in socials, but generally, yeah. If somebody writes or something, I will always get back to the person, of course. But yeah, if you want to find out anything about TIDALWAVE, generally, yeah, it's going to be through Instagram, I guess.
Are you on TikTok?
No, I'm not. Still not on TikTok.
Yeah, I'm on it. I'm on it, but very, very, yeah, not much. It just I use it for entertainment more so than I do promoting anything that I'm doing. I don't know how to utilize it to promote what I'm doing. So
Same here. Same here.
I don't know.
I think so. I've got a friend that told me, if you don't know how to use it, it's just not for you.
Yeah. Well, I see people on there and they're doing things. I'm like, I don't know. It just seems you're doing the same thing. You're just like reposting what you put on Instagram or what you put on Facebook, which I guess like is fine. I guess that's whatever you want to use it for, you can use it for. But I think of TikTok differently in that like um it's just more entertaining, I think. And that's how I use it. And I understand that that's not how everyone uses it. So I'm not shitting on anyone who uses it however they want to, but it just for me it's like I like it as like creativity and not skits, but like just I don't know. I don't have the time to put those things together and I'm not clever enough, I'm not funny enough, and it's
Yeah, I think ultimately, you just find it's difficult to focus on different platforms. I think you just find one, and you find the one that works for you. And I think it's
yeah.
easier to just stick to it. And yeah,
One last question for you.
of course.
What do you do for fun in Germany?
What do I do for fun?
Yeah. When you're not
Um,
doing music, what do you do for fun?
and personally, I'm a huge tennis fan,
Okay.
so I play a lot of tennis, basically. Yeah, that's always been like I always thought about this. Like it's a I've made bad decisions in my life. I've picked my two hobbies or passions are basically some of the most time-consuming and expensive ones.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. I should have never chosen those passions because music takes a lot of time and you need the money. Tennis is exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I have to work as well on top of that. And oh God. Yeah. But they give me a lot of pleasure. So yeah, that's what I do basically.
That is cool.
Yeah. How about you?
Ah, man. Well, I used to shoot darts. That was my like
Oh, nice.
extracurricular activities. Used to be in a traveling dart league with we like every Monday night. It was like a guys' night out. We it was like 5 or 6 of us. We'd shoot darts and have some beers and eat some shitty food. And by shitty, I
Nice.
mean excellent food, but just shitty for you.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and like I said, I have 2 children. One's just turned 5, and one is just turned 6 months old, and
Mm,
so a lot of my time is dedicated to that. I don't have a lot of time for the extras. My extra time goes to this, doing this, which I absolutely love.
nice.
Um, I'm currently staring at a Peloton bike that I promised myself I would get on today.
Mm,
I'm going to try and make better choices this year as far as being active and trying to choose where I put my body
mm.
more effectively, I guess you could say, because I do have 2 children and a wife, and I want to be around as long as possible. But um, that's what I do for fun. Spend time with my family and uh, and do this. So
Nice. Nice.
yeah, it used to be darts. It used to be. I haven't played sports in a long time.
Mm.
I actually work in a screen print shop. It's called Axelrad Screen Printing, and it's a big facility. And the owner just kind of taped off an area for pickleball, which is very
Okay.
similar to
Oh, nice.
tennis, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've
Heard a
been
lot about pickleball.
yeah
Yeah.
we've been playing pickleball at work, which has been kind of fun.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's great. I'd
that's
love
what
to
you do
try.
when you get older. Like when you get older and less mobile, I guess you do stuff that's smaller, so you don't have to like exert too much effort.
And if I remember correctly, it's one of the fastest growing sports in the US, actually, pickleball.
Yeah, there's a lot of big time athletes getting behind and investing in it and things like that. So I don't know.
Oh, that's great.
So
Nice.
well, man, thanks so much for reaching out to me. I really appreciate the kind words again, like you said, and it's always a pleasure talking to people, different parts of the world, and just kind of seeing like what they're doing and how they're doing it, and the processes and procedures, and just talking about music, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I mean, like I said, I think for me it's quite interesting to follow the podcast because of course like you kind of hearing the struggle of similar artists that you realize, okay, well, we're all going through the same shit.
We're all doing it. It's
So,
if you're trying to be creative, like I said, you're your own worst enemy and your biggest critic, and you get down on yourself. No one likes what I'm doing. Why am I doing this? I'm stupid. I'm terrible. Why am I? but but best of luck this year, man. I hope I'll keep obviously I'll keep tabs on any new music you got coming up, and hopefully I'll see that you've hit that stage at least once this year.
Thank you. Hopefully it'll happen. Yeah.
Sweet. All right, Mel. Take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Thank you.
All right, we'll see you.
See ya.